Canada lied. I mean, what they did was terrible. They made up a fake statement by President Reagan. Reagan was a big supporter of tariffs when needed, and we need tariffs for national security, and they totally turned it around because they're getting hurt by tariffs and we're gaining by tariffs. They've used tariffs on us when we had different presidents very successfully, and they've taken a lot of money out of our country, and now we're taking it all back.
Well, with me now is Eric Ham, CTV News U.S. political analyst. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Great to have you. Can we clear this up if we can? And the U.S. President Donald Trump saying that former President Ronald Reagan was in favor of tariffs. Just for our views and otherwise, can you clarify Ronald Reagan's position on tariffs in relation especially to that speech that's been airing in the ad?
Yeah, actually, Ronald Reagan was more engaged and interested in free trade. And of course, we know that he worked very closely with Canada. And it's very interesting because what Donald Trump said there was Ronald Reagan was for tariffs when needed. And of course, all presidents are for tariffs when needed. But what we have seen going back at least 4 to 5 decades from all American presidents is an openness to engage not only in trade, but also in building relations. You got to remember, a former late President Richard Nixon actually went to China. So we have seen presidents engage in overtures to other countries. I think why the president is fuming so much is not only because this is the iconic Ronald Reagan, who is seen as the godfather of the present-day Republican Party and conservatism, but also that what we are seeing here is Ontario and Premier Doug Ford is using this ad and using Ronald Reagan's own words against Donald Trump himself.
Yeah, and it clearly has touched a nerve, it appears, right, for the U.S. president. It's the latest hurdle and stumbling block in trying to get to any new agreement and trade deal, in particular on sectoral tariffs. Give us a sense, because Donald Trump has had a lot going on with the Supreme Court, needing and extending the arguments, oral arguments to rule on tariffs and if those are lawful from his government. And it feels like this was just a tipping point for him to, to get to this point after what has been, it appears, a pretty stressful week.
Well, that's true. And already we know this coming week, the Fed is expected to lower interest rates once again. And one of the reasons for that is because, again, in the United States, we are seeing a rapidly slowing economy. Donald Trump continues to tout how tariffs are benefiting the United States, how the economy is growing by leaps and bounds. And in fact, one of the big benefits to the government shutdown is much of the actual data that shows exactly where the economy is. We simply don't get that because of the government shutdown. But what we do know is that tariffs are hurting American businesses as well as Canadian companies, and to say nothing of the consumers on both sides of the border. And so Donald Trump is now basically in not only a war of words, but a war of PR with Premier Ford over tariffs and how tariffs are rapidly having an impact on both economies. And that is what Donald Trump does not want to get at.
Both Donald Trump and Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, are going to be at the APEC summit too. They're both traveling to Asia. Do you foresee the possibility of them having a conversation? Do you think this is going to blow over quickly, or do you think this will hold things up until possibly the renegotiation of CUSMA next year?
Well, look, what we're seeing right now is Canada, it looks more like it's playing good cop, bad cop, with Ford being the bad cop. Certainly, I suspect that the two men will have a conversation in Asia. However, I don't think we're going to necessarily see the diplomatic row blow over at this one summit. As for CUSMA next year, I think anything is on the table, including and very likely President Trump simply unilaterally pulling out. Because, again, we know that his enmity towards Canada runs very, very high. And quite frankly, Canada is the only G7 country that doesn't have a trade agreement with the United States right now. And I think one of the reasons for that is because of the disdain that Donald Trump actually has towards Canada.
And we have heard some frustration, too, on the part of U.S. negotiators, too. So Eric Ham, CTV News U.S. political analyst, thanks so much for this morning.